All right, everyone. Welcome to Replenish the Atmosphere of Discovery. I'm excited about today's topic for today. We will be talking about addressing change. Addressing change. So, as you go through your discovery process, you're going to be making decisions on what changes you should make, right? As you become, you have more information on what you have discovered, how it got there. Once you have that information, you have to determine what are you going to change, right? What should you adjust or alter in your thinking, feeling, or being that would allow you to become the best version of you, right? So you have to start thinking about the changes that you're going to have to make. When you are discovering who God has created you to be, you have to learn how to be comfortable, right, in this new version. Okay. You haven't lived this life yet as you. So you have to learn how to become familiar with yourself, right, with who you were created to be. Um, if you don't learn how to be comfortable with yourself, you will not embrace your individuality, right? You have to start loving who you are at your core unapologetically, without the customs, without the traditions, without the constant covering up and hiding, right? You have to learn to get used to you. Okay, so you have to know that there's going to be some changes and it's going to be uncomfortable, right? Because you have not lived this life as this version of yourself, right? Once you take, if you're the type of person that have worn a lot of masks, that has basically became a chameleon to change, to make yourself more comfortable or more relatable, right? Make it more easier for people to digest you, right? If you're that type of person, once you get rid of all of those other personalities, all of those masks, all of those ways that you've covered up who you are, it can be uncomfortable to just be you, right? You have to get used to living life as who God created you to be. And some of us have been in fear of the change that is required for the evolution of our minds and spirits, right? You are or should be, as a human being, evolving every day, mind, body, and spirit, right? There should be a continual change in all of us as we obtain more knowledge, more insight, as we spend more time on this earth. We should be evolving multi different ways, right? When people tell you you change, that shouldn't be an insult. Like, you should tell them, I'm glad. I hope I'm changing, right? I hope I'm not the same person that I was even 30 minutes ago. If I'm living right, if I'm doing this life right, I am not going to be the same day by day, right? Hopefully day by day you've grown. Hopefully your mind has been maturing and your body processes begin to work better, right? Hopefully your spirit is constantly being renewed day by day from the many battles that you fight every single day, right? There's a continual process of evolving and changing, and we must get on board with that. So what is change? What is change? Change is when you alter or allow the alteration of something, right? Change is when you become new or better, to be specific, right? Because we can change for the worse. So we're talking about the change that makes you better. And positive change happens inwardly first, right? It begins in your thoughts, then your new thoughts allow you to adjust your feelings, right? And your new feelings begin to modify your perceptions of things. They begin to change the way you act and who you are. And when you are willing to change, to grow, you can begin to trust what you feel, right? Because it lines up with what is true to your true self, right? You don't have to wonder, you don't have to check so much of, is this a valid feeling or not? Is this a true feeling or not? Right? Because as you change, you begin to trust what you feel. Okay. You're not thinking of or you're not thinking or feeling from a place of brokenness that causes your vision to be blurred and unreliable, right? Once you begin to think on those things that are true, once you begin to focus on those things and you begin to live a life of truth and honesty to who you are, your thoughts and your feelings become more reliable, right? You have clarity of mind. So that way your insight and your foresight is sharpened, right? You can see the whole picture of something. You can discern what appears to be good, but its motives are evil, right? There are things that look good, but the motive behind it is of evil intent, right? So once you become who you truly are and you live with that truth first, everything else around you, you'll begin to open your eyes and see, right? You will have sharper discernment, okay? Change can come with resistance, and most change comes with resistance, right? But change is not an opposition. Okay. It is not an enemy. Change is inevitable, right? It's a part of human evolution spiritually and physically. We should be continuing to change and transform, right? We try to have surgeries and pills, take pills to avoid the things that prove that we're growing, right? The things that prove that we've lived. We're trying to change it, right? This is not our eternal being. This is not our eternal suit, right? We're going to an eternal place. And when we go to the eternal place, we have to have an eternal being. So why are we trying to do all of these things that prove that we've grown instead of embracing those things, right? Mothers, stop being so self-conscious, right? You've given birth to the world. The world would not be here. No human race would be here without the women giving birth, right? Men, stop feeling inadequate, right? You've managed the human race. You've led humanity into new territories. You've built cities and nations, right? The things that prove that we've grown, that we've evolved, a lot of times shame tends to come with those things. And that's not God's intention. Okay. People can be very controlling by nature, right? And then you have people who have experienced some form of domination where their choices were taken away. And so they had to learn how to submit instead of resist. And this can be good when you are resisting things that harm you, right? But when your experiences have caused you to resist the changes that will benefit you, then that is damaging. Okay. We resist the changes that causes us to benefit, right? What you should control and manage are the things that benefit your health and wholeness. Those are the things that you need to have control over, right? Don't try to control people and outcomes that are part of your growth and healing. Let it happen scared, right? That means even if it's scary, if you know you need it, let it happen, right? Let the process begin. Continue in the process, work it out, right? Let it happen without you needing to know every piece, without you needing to know every single step before you make the choice to move, right? Challenges with change decide how you exist. Your challenges with change decide how you exist, okay? Will your existence be in a reality designed for you to prosper, to be well mentally, physically, and emotionally, right? Or will your challenges affect your ability to decide what's best for you, right? Because there's a challenge or there's a situation or circumstance that come up, right? Does it cause you and affect your ability to decide what is best for you, right? Because something happened. It's your decision on who you decide to be. It's your decision to create the world that you live in. Or you can just choose to exist in everybody else's world. Okay. And we often say that I'm playing with the cards that I'm dealt with, right? I'm making the best of the cards that I've been dealt. But the card, even if you were dealt a certain card, right? The card is still in your hand, right? So you can put that card down if you don't like it and pick up another card, okay? And so I want you to think like some of these little sayings that we have are curses. Like it's literally pronouncing curses on our life and creating a mindset where we cannot change, right? There is a small fact there that there are some things that you've had to deal with that you could not control, but there's a whole lot that you can control now, right? So just dealing with the cards that you've been dealt with, it causes you to allow that to become a part of your personality. It ends up framing your perceptions, right? If you don't change something, okay? You must change to move from existing to living. You must change to move from existing to living. Life is meant to be lived, okay? Not just tolerated and accepted by what you or someone else has agreed to, right? We should be living this life, not just existing in it, not just existing in other people's world, right? When we are addressing the changes that we need to make, there needs to be an expectation. Okay, when we start thinking about the changes that we have to make, there needs to be some type of expectation. There needs to be a goal, right? And the goal has to stop being to fail. Okay, even if your last season was roadblock after roadblock, right? You must still believe that it is possible for you to get through, because some roadblocks and some detours actually put us back on the right path, right? Um, and it puts us back on the right path because if you win around the wrong people, or if you win in the wrong place, you're still going to fail, right? It's just going to take longer. Okay. And you waste more time and resources when you're around the wrong set of people in the wrong places, and it appears that you have won, right? So some of those detours and those failures and those things that are unfortunate puts us back on the right path. It's put us in the path of the people that were meant to be our destiny helpers, right? So the expectation with change should first be on the canvas of your imagination. It should be your vision, right? And then you just fold that neatly into your personality and your way of being, okay? In order for that vision to manifest, your expectations have to shift, okay? Your expectations has to shift. It has to change, okay? You got to stop expecting so little, okay? You have to change what you saw or what you see. You got to change how you see it, right? You can no longer expect the same result. Expect to win, expect to be victorious, expect it to work out. Even if it don't, expect it anyway, right? When you fail, not if, because we all fail at some point, but when you fail, still use that failure to win, okay? Make a mistake, make you a millionaire, okay? Make a mistake, make you a genius, okay? Make a mistake, make you better than who you were, right? Don't let the mistake make you, and don't become your mistake. Use the mistakes, okay? Use the mistakes to make you a millionaire. Use the mistakes to make you great, right? Don't become the mistake. Don't become the trauma. Don't become the tragedy, right? You are always changing. Every one of us, we are always changing, or we're supposed to, right? You're always in some sort of process, okay? There are chemical processes happening in our bodies, happening in our minds, right? There are physical processes happening. There are emotional and spiritual processes happening all the time. Are these changes positive or negative for you? Right? Are you growing or dying? Which parts of you have you killed off because you refuse to change, because you refuse to grow? Which parts you never watered? Which parts you never pruned so that something fruitful could come forth? Right? We are always changing. And there's change happening whether you agree to it or not, right? But we want to agree to the positive change. We want to make the positive change happen, right? Fear of change is rooted in the fear of the unknown. Fear of change is rooted in the fear of the unknown. No matter how bold or how arrogant someone may seem, right? That fear of change is rooted in the fact that they don't know what's going to happen, right? What we don't know, we fear. Okay, that's why when you have knowledge, the fear goes away. when you have information about something, you're not as fearful as you were before, right? We have to know the reason why we have to know is because we want to manipulate the outcome, right? But the outcome was already written for us, right? So instead of being afraid, we ought to trust the one that wrote the story, right? And if we must fear making decisions without God, right? If you just have to fear something, that's what you want to fear. You want to fear living this life without God, without knowing the plan that He has for you, right? Our emotions play a large role in the way we process and assess information, right? Fear causes us not to think clearly and rationally, right? So that's why when our emotions are a mess and then the fear come on us, we make rash decisions. We end up self-sabotaging because that fear causes us not to think clearly and rationally, right? And that's why we do the work to manage our emotions and what we feel. That's why we manage what we allow to challenge those positive changes, right? You have to manage these things, okay? We can manage the emotions we feel as well as how and when they are experienced and expressed. These choices are in our hand, okay? We can manage what we feel, how we feel it, when they are experienced, and when we express them, okay? Humans are irrational at times, right? We don't make the best decisions for ourselves, and often it leads to self-sabotage, right? We get so busy looking for shortcuts, the easy way out, so that we have less work to do mentally and spiritually and emotionally, right? And that's simply because we are running away from our original design to transform into God's predestined purpose for us, right? That irrational part of us, that is what causes that internal conflict between who we are and what we're currently doing, right? We throw away logic when it comes to changing, but we want to keep logic when we shouldn't, right? Like when we should have faith, we want to be logical and focus on what we see happening, right? But when we're about to make a bad decision and sabotage ourselves, we're not thinking about logic, right? Logic goes right out the window. Okay. So your change is necessary for growth, especially continued growth. Okay. And we get into that flow of getting to know ourselves and keeping our foundation firmly established, right? Managing our thoughts and feelings and actions. And then bam, right? Here comes an irrational thought that slips in and halts our progress. We have to be mindful of that. That's why we have to manage those thoughts. We have to tell them where to go, right? You are the conductor of that thought train, okay? You determine where your thoughts go, okay? So when you are developing, when you are going back to God's original design, you have to expect some type of resistance, right? It's going to come from both outside and inside, right? From within and without. Okay, so you have to grow to the point where you're not just talking yourself into being the best version of you, but you are actually being yourself. Okay, you have to get to the point that you're just not talking it up. You're just not talking yourself up to being, but you're actually being yourself. And a lot of stuff we talk ourselves into, we don't actually believe, right? Your mind does not always believe what you tell it. Just because you talked yourself into doing it doesn't mean you believe it, right? So when you're just doing stuff without believing in it, it doesn't last. It's temporary, right? It's a temporary fix or change for a moment. But if you don't believe it, you're not going to keep doing the work to keep it. Okay. You end up wanting to quit because you try to convince yourself of something by manipulating yourself, right? And this is what causes delusion and irrationality to manifest in your daily actions and interactions with other people. Okay. It's because you didn't believe what you were trying to persuade yourself to believe. Okay. And this actually affects our faith. Okay. It affects our walk with God until we become the scriptures, That's when we know we believe the scriptures. As long as we're just quoting it, right? We know it by heart, but we're not changing to become it. You're just manipulating yourself. Okay. And when you manipulate yourself, guess who else slithers in and try to be a part of that party? Right? You want to get some of that too. Okay. So it's easy for the enemy to change your mind when you won't change. It is easy for the enemy to change your mind when you refuse to change. He can get in there, and after you finish manipulate yourself, he gets in there, manipulate you to sabotage yourself. Okay. So we think we're in control when we decide not to change, but at some point in that process of not changing, you've made a choice, right? That lack of change is steered by thoughts to sabotage you, by manipulating you to not do what is best for you. Okay. You not changing. You have just been manipulated into not doing what's best for you. Okay. So you're still making a decision. It's just a bad decision for you. Okay. And a lot of times you stay stuck in there thinking, oh, I'm just not doing that. And you're proud of it. Oh, I'm not doing that. Right. How many of you have been stuck in that place of nope, never, and not gonna happen? How many of you have been stuck in that place? Right. You know why it's never going to happen? Because you refuse to change. You are blinded to what is best for you. You are deaf to your purpose. You can't hear God's plans and you can't see your path because you refuse to change. You refuse to see the possibility that you can actually live this life and not just exist in it. Okay. But you're in control, right? And that feeling has been sustaining you only in darkness. It refuses to allow you to come to the light. It has kept you from seeing how wonderful your life is and can be, right? It's been feeding the hopelessness and the weariness because you're not living to your full potential. That's why a lot of us are tired, right? Because it's draining to be less than who we're supposed to be. It takes more energy to be less than who God has created you to be, right? And that's why your spirit feels drained. Okay. The feeling of, I decided not to, your decision not to change is more comfortable to you than dealing with change because of your fear of the unknown. Okay. And that's how we bind ourselves to defeat. That's how we bind ourselves to failure. That's how we bind ourselves to lack. Not that it was God's plan. It's just that he told us to do something and we didn't know the next step, so we didn't do it. Right? Because we want to see the next step. We want to see how God gonna make it work out, right? That's not our business. How? He's God. If he tell us to do it, our job is to obey, right? And when we don't obey, there are consequences to disobedience. That means we stay in a place too long. That means we keep friends we shouldn't keep, right? There's consequences to those things, right? And this is not just a mind thing. This is not just in your mind. The cells in your body will become how you feel. That's why it's so important to manage what we think and what we feel and our emotions, right? Because it's not just up here, right? The cells in our body begin to become what we feel. You have to teach your body who you are and whose you are, okay? You got to remind your body who it belongs to and who you are, right? Your body has to get in line with its created purpose, right? Heart, you got to line up. You got to do what you're supposed to do. Blood, while you up there, I need you to come down a little bit. Do what you're supposed to do. Lungs, why is the breathing like that? That's not how you're supposed to operate. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I belong to? Right? Get in line with what you were created to do. I need you to be restored. I need you to change so that I can breathe properly. Right? Your body has to get in line. Your body has to change. If the way that your body is acting is not the way that God designed it to act, you got to do some talking, right? You got to declare something, right? Until it manifests what it's supposed to be doing. Okay. So we often think that changing our perspective is something bad. Okay. It's not something bad. When we are criticized, we talked about navigating criticism, right? When we are criticized about areas that we need to build up or get better in, we often get offended instead of just changing our perspective, right? Addressing the areas that we need to change is challenging. It's challenging who we are, right? It's challenging who we have become. That is not us, right? And a lot of us don't want to change because we have some sense in our spirit to know that I'm afraid of what I don't know. I'm afraid of who I really am, right? Without the cover ups, without the mask, right? I'm afraid for the world to see me, right? Because they might change their perspective of me. But guess what? That's okay. Because when you begin to live the authentic version of yourself, guess who's smiling? Even if the whole world is talking about you, when you begin to show the world God's creature, not the creature the world created through your experiences and your upbringing and everything that you've gone through, but when you begin to show the world God's image, right? The image that he made us in. He made us in the likeness of his image, right? When you begin to show the world that version, God smiles. And God smiling on you is more than a world against you, right? Address the changes that you need to make, okay? Stop just existing and live, right? Live this life. Don't live in somebody else's world. Create your own world, the world that God designed for you, right? Stop just being a part of somebody else's world, somebody else's thing, right? You were sent here for a purpose and a reason, and it's time for you to live. Change scared. It's okay. You can be scared and change. Okay. You can have doubt and change, right? You can feel it's not going to work out and still change, right? Change your mindset, change your focus, change your vision. Some of your visions are negative, right? When you think about yourself, it's negative. And most of that negativity comes from what is outside, right? And it becomes to infect the inside of you. Okay. You can feel good till you go to the doctor and he tell you something. And what happens? Them cells in your body starts changing to be exactly what the doctor told you, right? And so you gotta speak over your body, speak into your world what you want to exist there. If you don't want it there, stop speaking it, right? Stop your breath, your words is giving life to the things that you're saying you don't want. If you stop speaking it, it stops living, right? Okay. And so I want to leave that with you all. I'm going to finish with our statement. I am in recovery. I have discovered who God has created me to be. I have processed the traumas, the disappointments, and the failures. I have learned how to manage my thoughts and feelings. I have grown in my emotional intelligence. I am now processing my future, my victories, my peace, and my joy. So that concludes this session.